Bigby's been talking about giants. GameMasters here, and I've got a suspicion that Bigby Presents Glory of the Giants was based in a large part on a book from the Forgotten Realms that came out back in 1995. The book? Giantcraft, written by Ray Winnegar. I may be wrong, but hear me out. And tell me your thoughts as I describe what all can be found in Giantcraft. This book delves deep into giant mythology, albeit it was specific to giants found in the Forgotten Realms, but it explored the giants' beginnings with the great giant god Anim Allfather, something we know that will also be presented in Bigby's book. Giantcraft also explores various giants' physical features, stuff about various races of giants' heights, corresponding strength, what their modifiers would be, their saving throws. But keep in mind, if you thumb through Giantcraft, the terms used back in the advanced Dungeons and Dragons days is vastly different from what, and how we use the same terms today. In other words, how saving throws worked back in 1990s is different from how saving throws would work today. Deeper into Giantcraft can be found how giant senses work. In short, they are superior to those of mankind. Giants can see and hear twice as well as the average man, partially due to their oversized sensory organs. Some giants, such as the hill giants, stone giants, and cloud giants, even have a superior sense of smell and can detect and accurately identify living creatures via that sense of smell out to a range of about 30 feet. Other giants have superior infravision. Others can see easily in what would be an otherwise blinding snowstorm, or can pierce clouds and fog as if they were simply not there. The next chapter in this video is going to provide an overview of the Ordning, and while I'll get into a feature-length video specific to the Ordning next week, I wanted to give at least a mention of how Giantcraft originally presented it back in 1995. Before we jump into the Ordning, however, I need to give a giant-sized thanks to these giant supporters. Their help in supporting this channel means a lot to me, and if you'd like to get in on the fun and experience some exclusive members-only videos and outtakes, I'll leave a link down in the description as to how you can join. I'd also like to ask that if you're enjoying this video, give it a thumbs up. There's a term that pops up in Giantcraft called Huslitter. This roughly translates to family and describes how giant tribes perform and take on the responsibility of raising their children. Another term, one that we know is in Bigby's book, is Ordning. It refers to the order. In giant society, each race of giant has its own unique customs and social habits, and while they will follow the hierarchy within their own tribe, they all recognized a grand ordning in which a lower order giant will follow the instructions of a higher order giant. For example, Titans are on the highest rung of the Grand Ordning, with Storm Giants being under them, and Cloud Giants being under that. I'll go into more exacting detail in a future video about the Ordning. Also found in Giantcraft is a term called Jotun. This is the common tongue that all giants speak, and there is also a short glossary of Jotun terms. Jotun literally translates to giant, but if we were, for example, want to ask, where's the ale? We would say, why done do ingle? I think. There is also a healthy section in Giantcraft on how to roleplay giants, but also how to roleplay in the environment, even if you yourself are not playing as a giant-born player character. It also goes into detail with tips for the DM and how they can establish a good atmosphere for the session that will involve lots of giants. A good portion of the book also details the various types of giants that exist, from furbolgs to verbeegs to vodkin to fomorians. It also deals out the various deities that different tribes of giants follow. Recently, it became known that in Bigby Presents Glory of the Giants, there will be a section detailing something known as a Rune Carver. In Giantcraft, there is a subclass of wizard called a Rune Caster. Now, I can't help but wonder if they will be one and the same. To become a Rune Caster, one must be, a giant or giant kin. Basically, these casters will use carved runes to work magic. To scribe a rune in order to use it is a three-step process known as the scaping, which basically means shaping. One would first need to concentrate upon the essential truths of the rune, followed by accurately carving, drawing, or inscribing the rune's shape, and finally the last step is drawing the rune's power out. To activate the rune, the caster must baptize it, wet it with a non-poisonous liquid. After the rune's baptism, the caster makes a save versus spell. A success means you now have an activated rune. A failure means, well, you've got to start all over again. There is a good-sized section that also describes the different types of runic spells, and I'm thinking that the Rune Carver found in Bigby's book will work in a very similar way as the Rune Caster. Spanning over about 40 pages are details about the ice spires and the various environments that giants can be found in, from lairs to caves to glacier homes to castles, even in and around active volcanoes and in and among the clouds. We also are provided stat blocks for 3 monsters. Ice Spire Ogres, 4-legged kind of almost camel-like giant yak known as a Crotter, and Shadow Hounds. These are very similar to Hellhounds, except where Hellhounds come from Beator, Shadowhounds originate from the Abyss. And this is perhaps where my theory of Giantcraft influencing Bigby's Giant book falters, as we are aware that Bigby's book will contain roughly 70 new monsters, whereas Giantcraft contains only 3. Obviously, the Bigby book won't be a page-for-page reprint, and I'm certainly not suggesting otherwise. All I'm merely musing is that Giantcraft may be the overarching inspiration. I'll ask now, if you're into giants and Dungeons & Dragons in general, go ahead and subscribe, as I've got another video coming out this week detailing 8 big myths, pun intended, about giants, and I wouldn't want you to miss it. If you're looking for more information about Bigby Presents Glory of the Giants, be sure to check out this playlist. It's only going to grow as I add more information to it. How do giants fit into your table's campaign? Are they enemies, allies, both? Let me know in the comments, and until next our paths cross, may do Overin dun Uven.